Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. So as I'm sure most of you know, whenever some form of new mechanic is released or revealed or found, discovered, or something you can do in League of Legends that you couldn't really do before, that's something that's really interesting to me. And I believe this video is going to be a pretty good example of that. So as most of you are probably already aware, Malzahar in the jungle is very strong, obviously referring to the reworked or the new Malzahar. But there was a post stating that Malzahar can solo Dragon at level 3 and solo Rift Herald at level 5. And even though that is true, Malzahar can go even further beyond Super Saiyan 3. Because he can do Dragon at level 2, so as you see in this video, right after you get the blue buff, you can go right to it, and you can easily do it without too many problems, but again, it does depend on what dragon you're doing it against. And later on in this video, I will give you guys an example of him doing it at level 1, because it is also possible to do that, but it's not very practical because, I mean, you might as well get a camp before you go and solo Dragon, since it does spawn at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So in the first example, I'll show you guys level 2 Malzahar doing it on the ocean or the water drake. When doing this, you want to have your W and your Q because your Q is much better when it comes to spamming it for damage, and you want to probably have 2 smites, though it's definitely possible to do it with just 1. Now doing it with the ocean drake is easier than some of the other ones because this one doesn't have an AoE splash type damage attack. So you want to just simply use your Q and your W off cooldown, and whenever you have smite, you want to use it as well, especially the first one. You can either use the second smite on cooldown as well, or you can hold on to it and use it just to secure the dragon, just to be extra safe. But either way, you can see that with the Ocean Drake, this is very much possible, level 2, and it's really not all that difficult. I'll be showing you guys an example with all 4 of the Drakes, but before we go into the next one, let's quickly talk about what runes and masteries you want to have. So the masteries and the runes that I ran that you're seeing me use in this video right now are as follows. Decided to go a 12-18-0 in the jungle, and then for the runes, I ended up running flat AD reds and flat AD quints. A mix of flat CDR blues and CDR per level blues, followed by HP per level yellows. Now I started with a Hunter's Talisman and 3 HP potions just to be safe, but you can probably get away by going refillable potion. It might just depend on whichever dragon is the first one to spawn, because some of them are much more difficult to do this at level 2 with. Next up, let's take a look at an example of doing this at level 2 with the Air Drake. Now this one I found out to be probably just as easy as the Ocean Drake, so definitely want to keep this in mind. The Ocean and the Air Drake are by far the easiest, again because they don't have a splash auto attack. So if one of these 2 dragons is your first dragon, then you should definitely be happy. But either way, you can definitely see that this is possible, and it's not really all that difficult to do either. But now that we got the 2 easier drakes out of the way, let's move on to the 2 harder drakes, or the more difficult ones. So let's do the Earth Drake next, which I found to be the second most difficult one because it does have a splash auto attack and it does do quite a bit of damage. But the thing that I found out with this Drake is the fact that his auto attack speed is fairly slow, so you can play around that quite easily. But there's definitely a few things to keep in mind, the first of which applies to every single Drake. Do not summon your W Voidling before the Drake has risen up into the air, or it'll push the Voidling away and it'll slow down its recreation process. But things to keep in mind with the Earth Drake specifically. Now this guy again does have a very slow auto attack speed, so you want to time summoning your W just after he finishes an auto attack on you. So right now in the video, all my Voidlings are dead, my W is almost off cooldown, but I wait until he finishes one more auto attack before I summon the W, so that the Voidlings have the maximum amount of time to be alive and essentially to just recreate. On top of this, and this is a bit more difficult to do, you want to try and move around in a way so that your Voidlings summon in different areas around the dragon, so that when the dragon does do his auto attack, which has some very high damage and AoE splash damage, it doesn't hit every single Voidling if possible. Either way, this dragon is definitely killable. And next up we have the Fire Dragon. This one personally I found to be the most difficult of the 4. But he's very similar to the Earth Dragon, so whatever you do to make it work with the Earth Dragon, you want to do it with this one as well. Again, this one has a splash damage auto attack, so make sure to use your W after he's already auto attacked. Make sure to try to move around to try your best to make the Voidling spawn in different random areas so that the dragon cannot AoE them down with one single auto attack. But either way, you want to do the same things you do with the Earth Dragon, and if you do it well enough, it should be possible just as well. Now, before we go into soloing the Rift Herald at level 5, I did promise you guys that Malzahar can do this at level 1, so here's an example. I've noticed from practicing this that if you get the Fire or the Earth Dragon when you're trying to solo this at level 1, it's pretty much impossible to do unless you find a really good way to do it. But if you get the Air Dragon or the Water Dragon, then I do believe it is possible to do. But again, just as I said at the beginning of the video, this is somewhat impractical to do because, well, it does spawn at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. By that time, you can easily do a jungle camp without even having to use smite. So yeah, you can do this, and yeah, it's definitely possible to do this at level 1, but there really is no reason to do it. It's just something cool to see. So let's move on to soloing the Rift Herald at level 5. This one was much more difficult to do successfully compared to the dragons. Now, even though it is possible, it's very difficult to do. And without question, this will take some practice. So the idea here is to have your voidlings tank up the Rift Herald so that you can keep going behind it and proc the bonus damage from behind. But the Rift Herald will be spinning around attacking your voidlings in different areas throughout this whole fight. So going behind them to get the auto attack sometimes may be very difficult. But the hardest thing and what makes this truly difficult is the fact that whenever the Rift Herald switches his auto attack to another voidling, his aggro meter that you see right above his HP bar will slowly deplete. And as I'm sure most junglers know, if that thing goes down to 0, the jungle monster will essentially hard reset. So the trick here is when he's about to hard reset, if you have no more voidlings, you want to stand right beside him because you want him to instantly auto attack you just as he's about to reset so that he doesn't really have the time to reset. Or in other words, you want to minimize the time he's resetting and getting his HP bar back so that you can instantly fight him once again and not have him regain too much HP. Again, this is a lot more difficult than it looks in the video, and I do highly recommend you try it out in a custom game. But the point is, it is very much possible, and obviously the new Rift Herald being not only very strong, but the buff being extremely good, it's really good to be able to do this. But that's about it for this video, guys. There you have it, some cheese strats you can do with Malzahar, very early dragons, very early Rift Herald, and all by yourself. If you did enjoy this video, found it informative or whatever, please make sure to hit that like button, share this with your friends, let everyone else know what you can do with the new jungle Malzahar and just how stupid it can really be. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you for my next video. Peace.